everybody, and hello everybody, and welcome to another edition, another episode. And this is my second recording, the beginning. So it's like I'm gonna say the same thing twice, and that never works for me. So if you didn't know, every single one of these episodes is, for the most part, I would call it like impromptu. It's not. I don't like do a script. And so today we're actually going to be talking about engineering or with engineering and consciousness. I'm your host, Connor Hill, and this is the most interesting news in the world. So what do we have to talk about today? Well, interestingly enough, this is during a time when, so in Access Consciousness, a lot of this show covers the tools of Access Consciousness. And this episode today is going to quite possibly be very heavy or very light. Not light as in not very much, but light as in there will be a lot, but a lot creates lightness rather than it creating a heaviness. Interesting that's how that works out. Makes me wonder about in science, what is, if there is something that you add more of and it gets lighter. I guess it depends on what you're surrounding, because if you go, well, the more helium you add, the lighter it gets. Not really. I mean, it's lighter in air because the majority nitrogen air you breathe is heavier than helium. So more doesn't actually make something heavier. It's really just whatever is surrounding it. Interestingly enough, that is quite a conscious thought. So what is consciousness? If this is going to be engineering and consciousness, I'll define the two things. For me, engineering, I'm not just for me, but my definition, the definition I really enjoy, and for me that is actually true, that brings out the true essence of engineering, is to bring something about skillfully or artfully. Because the word engineering and the act of engineering has been around long before science, but the new definitions imply a lot of use or even define a lot of use of science. And from my point of view, that's not actually required. Oh, I forgot about the background noise. My bad. These days, computers, it's like seemingly impossible to get them to not make noises. I have you on, don't make noises. Okay. So engineering and consciousness, that's engineering. What is consciousness? Consciousness includes access consciousness. It does. Includes everything and judges nothing. Now, when I talk about access consciousness, it's an organization and a set of tools and techniques that are really put their focus on, and attention, not necessarily so much focus, but attention on gaining access to more consciousness or accessing consciousness. And that would be including everything and judging nothing. Now, what do engineering and consciousness have in common? Well, nothing, actually. I wouldn't say anything in common other than consciousness includes engineering and judges nothing. And the most effective engineering is going to be the engineering, right? If you're bringing something about artfully or skillfully, it's going to be that which addresses consciousness and actually creates more consciousness. So, and a lot of engineering these days doesn't necessarily do that. So what are some tools that we can start with engineering and consciousness? 4 of my favorite tools, which is really like one tool, is going to be, what is it? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? Those are 4 questions. And these can be applied to pretty much everything. So a lot of engineering nowadays, and I keep saying nowadays because if you actually go back through the history of engineering, it has changed over time and people speak about it different. And a lot of it is you see a problem and then you're like, I'm going to fix this problem. So notice these questions. These questions are actually, can I fix it? What is it? What do I do with it? Can I fix? Can I change? Can I fix it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? So can I fix it? There's a lot of discussion about that. We're not really going to cover that today, but what you really do want to start to look at is actually those questions. Let's take something, for instance, in the Mississippi River in the United States. It's the largest river in the United States. They actually had something going on in the water where they felt they needed to change it. And in order to do so, they added Asian carp to the water because the Asian carp, from their point of view, were going to help. Lo and behold, many years later, the Asian carp spread like quote unquote wildfire. And now the Asian carp are a much bigger problem than their previous quote unquote problem. Now, we also want to take the whole idea of problem, because this is another thing. Nowadays, a lot of people think engineering is about, let's first find the problem. What if there were no such thing as a problem? And what if everything that you thought was a problem was actually a possibility with a point of view attached? Whoa. Whoa. Take, for instance, penicillin. Somebody was looking for blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's funny. I know penicillin is the story that is really applicable here, and I instantaneously forgot the details of the story. But essentially, let's put it this way. I do believe the chemist that was working on, well, whatever kind of things he was working on, he discovered that he accidentally left one of his petri dishes open, and there was a mold that started growing that actually killed the bacteria that was in his dish. Now, to a lot of people, that would be a problem. You're like, oh, I messed up. My study is messed up. All this stuff is messed up. And I apologize if you hear my son crying in the background. I'm doing this from home, and this is just what you get. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's an issue. If you do, you might want to plug your ears, or, this isn't the right show for you. Let's put it that way. Because like I said, consciousness includes everything, including crying babies. So you could look at that as a problem. Oh my God, this is a problem. Or you can look at it like, okay, if this wasn't a problem, what would actually be possible? Well, the possibility is that I just found this mold without realizing I found it. And wow, it kills a lot of stuff. So then he saw the same mold on a pineapple, and it became apparently this like very common mold, and you can turn it easily into a pill form. Maybe not easily, I don't know the story behind that. And now penicillin is the most effective antibiotic, antibacterial. Don't quote me on this. I'm so not a chemist, pharmacist type of a person. But there are a lot of these stories throughout time where we take a problem and we think it's a problem, we try to fix it, and it totally doesn't work out for us. Or where we actually take a problem that we think is a problem and we actually go, oh my God, wait, this isn't a problem. If we just change it a little bit or use it a little bit differently, it'll work out actually in our favor big time. So all the problems, and what I'm about to say now is called the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You use this essentially to change stuff, to just change it. Mostly the stuff that has to do with you, your point of view. And I'll do it like this. So all the problems you have, will you become aware of the possibility that they be? So all the points of views you have that don't allow that, basically all the points of views you have keeping problems from being the possibility they can be, will you let all those points of views go now? Cool. Now I'm going to say the clearing statement. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Now, if you're a super science freak and you're like, I want to figure that out, you're like, I don't think it's going to work. Well, it's like, it's really funny because I said this clearing statement to this super science woman one time. And if you find it funny the way I talk, it's because I have my bachelor's of science in civil and environmental engineering. I also have my civil engineering professional license. So I am a professional engineer, and I worked in the design field for quite some time, 3 years to be exact, and in construction. And then I even worked a lot in preliminary and conceptual design, traveling all over the United States, training engineers, architects, and land developers in conceptual design, especially for land development, greenfield development. So, blah, blah, where was I? So that's the clearing statement. And I met this super sciencey woman. I like using those words. And she was like, whoa, what is that? That's amazing. And I was really surprised because I thought for sure, she'd be like, that sounds weird and blah, blah, blah. But she's like, oh my God. It's like, it just made me stop thinking. And that's the target, is like, you don't have to think. So let's do that too. All of the points of views you have that keep you thinking that you need to think, will you let all those go now? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Oh, let's do another one, because I think I said at the beginning of this show, one of the things we're talking a lot about right now in access consciousness is structures. And structures have been talked about in access consciousness for a very long time. And right now, they are able to be changed in a different way than they have ever been before. That's where these 4 questions come into play again. Like I said, what is it? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? And so we've been changing some things with regards to structures for a long time, but now it is like all of a sudden it is able to be changed in a different way than it has ever been able to be changed before. If you want more of a sciencey explanation, it's kind of like, look at Leonardo da Vinci, not DiCaprio, da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci came up with tons of inventions that just were not applicable at the time because they didn't have the technology. The people around him didn't understand anything that he was doing. And so try and build a helicopter when it's the year that I'm like, I would love to be like, I'm super smart and I know the year that Leonardo da Vinci was around. I went and visited his death place, actually. That was cool. Super cool castle in France. But I don't remember dates very well, sorry. So the people just weren't around. Nobody understood. So what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? Now that is applicable on the large scale, the macro view of engineering projects, concepts, and also on the small scale. You can just ask, is now the time? Now, why is this important? Well, one of the things I noticed, and I noticed as an engineer, and I still notice, is that people were always trying to find the right answer. Now, for a long time, for hundreds of years, people have always known that there was no such thing as a right answer. We had sayings like, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and there's other sayings like that, but that was an American one. That's the one I remember. But in reality, there is no right answer. Now, the other aspect to this is that access consciousness does things different. And I'm not trying to make this a sales video for access consciousness. This is more about when people discover the tools of access consciousness, they like to act like it's like something else. Well, it's not. And the reason it's not is because nothing else I have ever come across really applies the question in the same way. And when I say the same way, I don't mean like access consciousness does it in a different way. Access consciousness really just acknowledges the question is where it's at. Like, this is the jam. Everybody's trying to act like the answer is where the jam is. No, the jam is in the question. It's kind of like Einstein always said, if you gave me an hour to do a problem, I would spend 55 minutes trying to discover, like looking for the best question to ask. And that's really the target. You want to be, instead of looking for the answer, be like, okay, asking a question like, what else is possible? Because if you notice the moment that you come to the conclusion that there is a problem or that something needs to be changed, you're going down a rabbit hole that is not a very fun one. So everything that doesn't allow you all, and so this is also, I must say, because I read a book with access consciousness. The book was actually called, and is called, still around, Embodiment by Dr. Dane here. I read that book and I got my bars run, and I learned a couple other tools. I learned the question, what else is possible? But I really learned the aspect of question, choice, possibility, and contribution. I didn't understand contribution or possibility, and I was super curious about choice, but I was so involved in like linear reality that I was like, I'm gonna do question. And but I also knew that question was required. And the thing I noticed is I always failed, quote unquote, in my engineering job when I came out of question. Every time there was a mishap in anything, like a missed design, a missed thing in construction, anytime something messed up, or it was like, boop, it was where we weren't asking questions. And in the future, and as I did even more access consciousness, and I even got more involved with different types of clients and engineering, I came across some people that I started working in the private sector, and I worked with a client once that had worked with a previous engineer, and he was like, well, there's just no way he could have known that that was the case. My new point of view with these access tools is you don't have to know, but at the same time, you should know, because you should always be asking questions. So I noticed this thing where every single time things fucked up, for lack of a better word, it was because I wasn't asking a question. It was because I came to some conclusion in some area. So for me, it became more about the target of being in the question and being the question, and always and never actually coming to conclusion. And that's what actually made me still a very, very good engineer, and better than others, not because of anything super special about me, other than I was always willing to ask a question and be in question and acknowledge that the question was actually going to get us to where we wanted to go a heck of a lot faster than anything else. Whew. So this is just a start to engineering and consciousness. I have actually been working at this for a very long time. I wanted to really study my ass off. I have personally not been prepared to unleash this on the entire world, and this being just what I'm aware of is possible with consciousness and engineering, and actually applying consciousness to engineering and applying the tools of access consciousness to engineering, just because I wanted to get really, really good at it. Because I was like, oh my God, there's so much stuff that I'm still not aware of. So I've spent the last 10 years of my life traveling the world, facilitating access consciousness courses, and also doing engineering jobs as well. I've built mobile applications. I manage about 100 Zoom accounts, and sort of the, not structure, the system by which the the Zoom accounts for access consciousness can be handled and used. Now you go, that's actually a really great place for me to apply the things that we've already talked about here. So you might go, Connor, what is question, choice, possibility, and contribution? So with regards to an engineering project, what you want to be, I already talked about, is always be in question. How do you do that? You ask those 4 questions. What is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? Also, what else is possible? And how does it get any better than this? Those are the questions you can just start with. That's just getting you started. There's a lot more we can have there, but that's just a really great place to get started. The next part, choice. Well, what is choice? Choice is basically do the project, don't do the project. But then with every single engineering project you're ever involved in, there are going to be thousands and thousands of choices. Some of those choices are mostly out of your hand, but at the same time, in those same moments, again, every time, it always figures out a way to to make some sort of noise in the background. See, this is from my point of view where the engineers at Apple are failing, because my Mac computer still figures out how to make noises at me when I don't want it to. So stop making noises, computer. I'm on a Zoom call. It's really important. So there's thousands of choices to be made in any engineering project. Some of those choices you don't really have say in, or you might feel like you don't have say in, but the really great thing with access consciousness is we have a lot of tools with regard to manipulation. What do you mean manipulation? Let's call it kind of like persuasion, only better. But yeah, it's better. And it's like, I could barely even get started on that. We can talk about it later. I realize that manipulation comes with a lot of bad connotation. It's not really meant that way. Manipulation, really, the target of manipulation is to bring the best out of any person. So let's give that as my definition here. Your target is to really bring the best out of a person, in whatever way, shape, or form that has to work. Like, so for me, if you want me to do something, you don't tell me what to do, but you can get me to do something if you tell me to not do it. Like, I bet you can't do that, and I'll be like, I'll show you. That's manipulation. Okay. So choices. You can look at what you do have, where you do have choice. You can choose to not work on a project. You can choose how you interact with people. You can choose all sorts of stuff. So that's question, choice, and then possibility. A lot of the target, what if every question you asked and what if every choice you made was for more possibility? Like, you can look at an engineering project and go, does this engineering project create more possibility or less? Now, I could go all across all sorts of engineering projects across the globe and science projects that have created all sorts of stuff, and you can apply your own awareness to those yourself. Did this engineering project create more possibility or less? I'll give you my awareness is that the vast majority, meaning like more than 50% of engineering projects on the planet, have created less possibility than more. That's why from my interesting point of view, is to get this information out there just to see where it goes. Do I know what an engineering project looks like where it creates more possibility? I do, actually, because there's one in Costa Rica called El Lugar. Check it out if you want to, el-lugar.com. So that actually creates more possibility. And I got to tell you, what I thought created more possibility 10 years ago is totally different than what I'm aware of actually creates possibility now. So, so that's possibility. The last one is contribution. And contribution is a two-way street, let's call it. Contribution is you being a contribution to others, and in so you also receive contribution from others. So you can ask the same thing about a project. Does this project create contribution? Does it contribute to the community? And does the community contribute to it? And essentially, in order to be contribution, you need to not come to conclusion. Oh my God, wow. So you could even look at projects, engineering projects across the globe and go, did this project get created from a conclusion? Quite possibly. So I'm going to run the clearing statement. Everything this whole conversation has brought up. So, because as I talk, everything I'm saying, it might be bringing up a lot of points of views. You might be looking at me going, this guy's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never applied these tools to anything before. This is apparently my New York Boston accent or something. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What an idiot. Look at him. He doesn't blah, 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 blah. He's not got enough money. He's not nearly sexy enough. He's not cool enough. I don't believe him. Whatever it might be, all the stuff that comes up. Or maybe you're sitting there going, oh my God, you're so smart. Wow. All of that stuff. Anything it brought up, or it has nothing to do with me. It might have all sorts, whatever it might be. I don't know what else there is. All that stuff, the thoughts, feelings, emotions that it brings up, will you let all those go now? Cool. Right and wrong, good and bad, puck and pod, all nine shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. Now, if you want to start using this and you don't remember any of that stuff, you can just use POC and POD. And I can't recall, I might have said it. If you want all the information about that whole thing, because you're like me and you're like, oh my God, I need to know it all, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. So POC stands for point of creation. POD stands for point of destruction, because every point of view you take, if it's a fixed point of view, if it's something you're not willing to change, it creates future and it also destroys future. Now, if you're willing to take a point of view, but not have it be fixed, this is going to be the difference between a structure and a system. A structure is going to be a thing where you're like, this is how it is and this is how it must be. Where a system is like, okay, right now we're going to do this. And a system, a conscious system is going to be one that is actually willing to create more possibility and change for more possibility for the future. Wow. Oh my God. So cool. So everything this brings up for everybody, times the guides and language trying to create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, walk, all nine, shorts, boys, poveds, and beyond. Now, does that mean it's bad and wrong to create a project that doesn't, solely create possibilities? Not necessarily. Because you're just going to become aware as you create. And there are a lot of tools in access consciousness, and a really great one is, what if every choice was only good for 10 seconds? Now, that's a tough one to apply to engineering, because you're like, but that's not true, because if I build this bridge, the bridge is now there. But what if you were willing to actually go, hey, we're going to close the bridge down in 10 seconds, or whatever it might be. But choosing in 10 seconds is literally just about going, I'm going to choose this in the next 10 seconds. You can apply, it doesn't work if you try to go, oh, I figured out what that creates. What you really have to do with it is to just apply it. My favorite way of doing that is you do it for 10 minutes in the morning. And if you're like, I'm too busy for 10 minutes, do it for 5. From the moment you wake up, for the first 5 minutes of your day, every day for 2 weeks, for those first 5 minutes, choose in 10-second increments. What does that mean? That means your choice is only good for 10 seconds. If you wake up to an alarm and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work, then just go, I'm not going to work. But it only lasts for 10 seconds. And if then 10 seconds later, you still don't want to go to work, choose it. But instead of like fighting it and like thinking you should be doing it or not be doing it, and basically living in this world that most of us live in of a no choice universe, you go, this is what I'm choosing for the next 10 seconds. And you're not locking that choice in place. You're not turning it into a structure where it has to be. You're not building a concrete structure right there in your bedroom. You're just choosing for 10 seconds. And then the next 10 seconds, you can make a different choice. Ooh, or if you wake up and you're like, I want to quit my job. You don't have to call your job. You can just wake up and go, I'm quitting. Right now, as of right now, I quit. And then 10 seconds later, you can be like, I feel like getting in the shower. And you can take a shower for 10 seconds. It's a fast shower. And you can stay in the shower, whatever. But you really have to play with this. You got to start doing it in order to figure out what it actually creates for you. So we've talked a lot about a lot of different stuff today. This is just ever so slightly scratching the surface of what is really, truly possible with all of this. But what I do hope you can do with this show that we've had here is maybe begin to apply some of these tools. So what are some of the things I've talked about? I talked about question, choice, possibility, and contribution. Those are the 4 elements of creation. What are some questions? You've got, what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? If so, how do I change it? You can also ask, what else is possible? And how does it get any better than this? And we've talked about choosing for possibility. That's actually an advanced course in access consciousness. And then you've got being the contribution and being possibility. So what else is possible now, my friends? I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If it sparked some questions in your universe and you would really like some more information, please send me an email or join my Telegram thread. You can find me at connorjhill.com. My Telegram group channel is just Connor Hill, ConnorHill. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for those of you that joined. Y'all are awesome. I hope to see you again somewhere, somehow in the world. And depending on how I shouldn't say depending. I'm not going to make it a depending. I'm choosing. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this stuff. Let's just see what this creates. How does it get any better than that? What the fuck else is possible now? Thanks, everybody. Ciao. Ta-ta. Bye-bye. This was another episode of the most interesting news in the world. Your host, Connor Hill.